Hello, my lovelies. Today, I have a subscriber story called Dogman Country. This time, we're going to keep it simple and cute. No bells or whistles, none of that stuff, just plain Jane. Alright, so here we go. Let me tell you about myself and what happened in what's now called Dogman Country. I'm just a good old country boy. I wear my boots and love my beer. And us country folks sure love our bonfires. Me and a couple of buds decided we were going to throw one hell of a bonfire one night. Here in the deep south of Mississippi, if you've never been to a bonfire, what are you doing with your life? I rode with my buddy Wayne down to the lower back 40 to our usual bonfire spot. About 5 minutes later, John and Thomas finally showed up with the coolers. We lowered our tailgates as usual and started building the fire with the wood that was left from the last time. As the sun was going down, we each took our spots on the 2 tailgates and started shooting the shit. The fire caught up and we continued telling jokes on into the night. Around 10 o'clock, the fire started to die down, and so Wayne and John decided to go get more wood. They grabbed the 2 mag lights and headed off. I had just lit a cigarette about 10 minutes later when me and Thomas heard a god-awful scream. It sounded like the time my girlfriend was trying to get ready for work by candlelight as she went to use the hairspray. Whoosh! Out of the woods ran Wayne and John high-stepping it. We all grouped together by the fire with me shining my light towards where they had just ran from. As we're talking, the smell of stench from the bottomless pit rolls over us. Wayne is screaming werewolf over and over again, but John wasn't saying a word. I looked at John, and he was turning from paper sheet white to rose red. He was staring down at his feet. I asked him what was wrong and was he okay, and while Thomas the whole time was trying to calm down Wayne. He slowly turned away from me and placed his back to me. I kid you not, this boy had done shit himself. I'm talking like running down his legs like Niagara Falls. That's when I realized 3 things. 1, where the horrible smell was coming from. 2, that they had seen something terrible. And 3, it's in the woods where we are. I slowly aimed my flashlight up towards where the guys had come running from, and standing about a foot behind the brush line was a huge creature. My flashlight beam rose up and up, I kid you not, about 6 feet up in the air, before landing on its glowing greenish-yellow eyes. I, like John, almost shit myself too. My brain was screaming werewolf. It was like nothing like what I have ever seen in my life. It looked like something straight out of the movies, but not. I noticed its muzzle was that of a large canine with teeth. It was indescribable. At that moment, my legs felt like jelly. Not sure if it was from the monster, the alcohol, or both, but it took everything I had to jump back and run from my good old trusty Z71. By the time I slammed my door, Wayne was hopping in on the other side. I hate to say this, but I didn't even wait for John or Thomas. I was in pure flight mode as if a bucking bull was after me. I cranked the Chevy up and floored it. My baby was down to the max. The hell with that shit and whatever that creature was. I drove back out of the 40, not slowing down until I reached the turn. As I stopped for a moment to wait on the buds, we both locked our doors, and then it occurred to me that my shotgun was behind the seat. Damn it, 'cause I sure as hell wasn't getting back out of the truck. Just to move the seat forward to get it. In my rearview mirror, I seen headlights coming up on our rear end. Thomas slowed down and lined his driver's side door with Wayne's window. They both rolled him down, and that's when I noticed John wasn't in the truck. I asked Thomas with a bit of panic in my voice, where was John? He pointed back behind him, and my eyes followed. and there was Shitty John hanging on for dear life in the bed of the pickup truck. It was a sight to see, let me tell you. He was cussing and a-fussing the whole time, and his head being stuck in the bed of the truck and not being able to be up front. We sat there for a few more minutes discussing whatever that was we had seen, and then decided to head home for the night. Especially poor John, because he sure was in one hell of a shitty situation. That night, none of us got very much sleep. I know I, for one, tossed and turned, with those eyes and that teeth in my mind every time I tried to doze off. I woke up the next morning after last night's ordeal with the monster and sat down at the kitchen table. My pop had just poured us a cup of coffee and sat down as well. I told him about what had happened to us guys last night, and he looked at me with the stern expression on his face, kind of like the time I ran over baby's sister with the bicycle, which, in my defense, she was in the way, and my brakes didn't work. He took in a long breath of air and slowly breathed it out. "Boy," he said, "don't you remember me warning you about that area?" I did remember, but whoever listens to their parents anyway? He told me that I needed to talk to Granny. I rolled my eyes at that. Let me tell you, Granny is something else. She sits on her porch every evening with the shotgun across her lap, just a-rocking in her mother's old rocking chair. That chair is so old the wood has turned black. I told Pop that I would swing by there, but I still didn't understand why I needed to talk to her about the encounter we all had. What is so wrong with the back 40 anyway? Little did I know that I was about to find out. After I finished eating breakfast, I rode over to Granny's house. I found her out in the garden. You would figure that at 78 years old, she would be taking it easy, but oh no, not Granny. She motioned for me and I walked over. I went to explain to her why I was there, and she told me that Pop had already called her. She sat back down on her upturned bucket and pointed at the other one, signaling me to have a seat. So I sat. She didn't waste any time. Like some folks, Granny always got straight to the point. Many years ago, all this, she said while waving her hands wide, used to be Choctaw land. They lived here for thousands of years. They held secret ceremonies, told many stories, and created sacred plots of land. And one of the myths, son, as she always called me, she said, there is a tale of a dog's life, that even though it won't live as long as its human companions, it will have a long duration if treated properly. But if its owner is mean and cruel to it, then the dog would have a short life. One day the white man came through these parts, and one of them had a dog being pulled along behind a horse on a piece of leather strap. They say that the owner was a cruel and heartless man. When they came upon the Choctaw camp, one of the boys fell in love with the dog. The boy snuck up to the dog one night while everyone was asleep and untied the dog, meaning to keep it for himself, but once the dog recognized it was free, it hauled tail into the woods. The boy looked and looked for the dog, but never seen him again. Every once in a while, someone would exclaim to the boy that they noticed a dog watching them from behind the wood lines. Years passed, and the Choctaw came to believe that the dog was a watcher over the lands. Then one day the government came in. The Choctaw were pushed and hurled from their lands. And near what you call the back 40 is what young people now call Dogman Country. Legend goes that when the government came, they decided to build a man-made lake on old Choctaw land. They call it Sardis Lake. At that moment my eyes lit up. I knew exactly the lake she was talking about. It's the one near us. They built the dam in 1936, supposedly for flood control. What the government didn't know at that time, son, was that they were going to stir up something terrible. Reports started coming in of unusual creatures and strange noises being reported. One worker that was helping construct the dam even said he's seen a massive dog watching them work. Except this dog wasn't on all 4 legs, but 2. And ever since they have desecrated the Choctaw lands, stories of an evil creature have been told by everyone that lives around here. I think what happened is that dog wanted to protect the Choctaw people for setting him free as thanks, and his overwhelming protection of them turned him into something much more sinister. It turned him into a creature like no other. It turned him into Dogman. I sat there staring at Granny as a chill ran down my spine. Is that what we encountered? Was that the creature of nightmares? Was there only one of them? Was it protecting us or hunting us? 1,000 questions started running through my mind. Now I have more questions than answers. There was only one thing to do, and that's one day to go back to Dogman Country.